Have you ever wondered if the cure for some of our toughest diseases might be growing right outside our doors? Well, today we're diving deep into that exact question. Can plants actually hold the code to killing cancer cells? This idea is hardly new. I mean, for literally thousands of years, as this quote from a 2014 paper points out, people have looked to the natural world for medicine. It's an instinct that's woven into our history. And that's exactly what this is all about. We're going to unpack that very research, a scientific poster presented by Wafa Ghali and her team, which took this ancient wisdom and really put it under the modern scientific microscope. So let's get into this fascinating collision of worlds, where age-old folklore meets the sterile, white coat environment of a laboratory. Because look, it's one thing to believe plants can heal. It's a completely different ballgame to prove it. Right? What does the actual hard data tell us? That's the question these scientists were determined to answer. All right, so let's meet the two main characters in this story, the two plants that were essentially put on trial. In one corner, you've got Lycium europaeum, this thorny little shrub from the Mediterranean, and in the other, Jatropha podagrica, a succulent all the way from the tropical Americas. So two totally different plants from opposite ends of the earth, but both with a reputation in traditional medicine. And that brings us to the million-dollar question. It wasn't just, can these plants kill cancer cells? The real challenge, the thing that makes cancer treatment so difficult, is that you don't want to harm the healthy cells in the process. So could these extracts be smart bombs, targeting only the cancer?
And with that question hanging in the air, we head straight into the lab for the showdown. So how did they actually set this whole thing up?
The plan was actually pretty elegant. First, they made these really potent, concentrated extracts from both plants. Then, they took those extracts and introduced them to a bunch of different cancer cells. And here's the key part. They also introduced them to healthy, normal cells. The final step was just to sit back and count who survived. And they really put these extracts to the test. They didn't just use one type of cancer. They went after cell lines from 3 really tough ones: ovarian, lung, and even neuronal cancers. But this, right here, was the moment of truth, the control group. For this, they used healthy brain cells. I mean, think about it. If your cure is toxic to everything, it's not a cure, right? It's just poison. The whole game was selectivity. So, after all the prep, all the tests, what was the final verdict from the lab? Honestly, the results were pretty stunning. And here it is, plain and simple. The plant extracts slammed the brakes on the cancer cells, stopping them from growing and even pushing them to die off. But the healthy cells, they were basically fine, no major damage. They were left almost completely unharmed. This is what researchers dream of. It's called selective toxicity, and it's the holy grail. So how in the world did the extracts pull this off? They used a process called apoptosis. Now, this isn't some messy, chaotic explosion. Apoptosis is the body's own orderly cleanup true. It's a pre-programmed system for getting rid of damaged cells. You can think of it like the plant extract just walked in and flipped a self-destruct switch that was already built into the cancer cells. And they had the molecular receipts to prove it. They found that key proteins, these things called Caspases 3 and 7, were activated. These guys are basically the executioners of the whole process. Seeing them in action confirmed that, yep, the cancer cells were getting the signal to self-destruct. But get this, killing cancer cells was only one half of the story. It turns out these extracts were doing 2 very important jobs at the exact same time. On top of being assassins for cancer cells, they were also incredible antioxidants. They were acting like tiny little bodyguards for healthy cells, protecting crucial things like proteins and DNA from damage. So they were simultaneously attacking the bad guys and defending the good guys. And here's the real kicker. These 2 jobs weren't separate at all. They were completely connected. The researchers found a direct link. The more powerful an extract was as an antioxidant, the better it was at killing cancer cells. It's like its protective power was fueling its offensive power. Just amazing. Okay, so let's zoom out. What does all of this really mean? Why is a study from 2014 still so important to talk about? Let's just recap the big takeaways. We learned that these 2 plant extracts can stop cancer cells in their tracks. They do it by cleverly triggering the cell's own self-destruct sequence. They're incredibly precise, leaving healthy cells alone. And their ability to do all this is tied directly to their power as antioxidants.
At the end of the day, the point of a study like this isn't to tell you to go out and start chewing on shrubs. No, it's to provide a blueprint. It shows us that nature has already come up with some incredibly elegant solutions. And if we can study those solutions, we might just learn how to build new, smarter, and more targeted therapies, ones that work better with fewer awful side effects.
And that kind of leaves you wondering, doesn't it? This was just 2 plants out of the millions of species on our planet. How many other secrets, how many other powerful codes are just sitting out there, waiting in plain sight?